So welcome to cooking class. So today we're doing thinking outside of the lunchbox. Last month we did Star Spangled Crepes. Did anyone make any crepes? You did? Which ones did you make?
Well, I'm actually in the process of eating them. I just before I came, my lunch was one of my sweet French crepes wrapped around a prosciutto mozzarella stick.
Oh, fancy. That sounds delicious.
That is the other one with the cream in the middle and strawberries.
Yeah. Well, we really liked doing the crepes. It was definitely something interesting, something that most people don't do. And so for this month, thinking outside of the lunchbox, we tried to be a little bit more original as well. But it was a tough one. But we came up with just a couple of recipes, hopefully something that you'll want to try. So go ahead and get started. So our first recipe is going to be the bento box. Has anyone heard of a bento box? Yeah, perfect. So it's definitely like the trendy thing in the lunch world right now is to do the bento box. So the question that we both have been getting is, what is a bento box? So really the definition of a bento box is like a single serve or a single portion lunch style box. So it originated in Japan, and really it's just a way to get a really good balance at lunch, and it's typically in some kind of a container with multiple divided areas. But so typically it's, in Japan it was rice or noodles, fish or meat, and then some kind of vegetable. So really the biggest tip for a bento box is to just try to get a good variety and pick something from each food group. So really you want a carbohydrate, you want a fruit, a vegetable, and some kind of protein. Excuse me, I think Jared likes to compare them to Lunchables. So they're kind of like an adult Lunchable.
Yeah, that was actually how I described it to most of the people on my staff. They're like, what is it? And I'm like, did you ever eat Lunchables when you were a kid with like ham and cheese and crackers? It's basically like that, but with vegetables.
Yes. So you can find bento boxes at Walmart like this, or like Amazon online. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can also kind of make your own bento box if you have small containers that you can put inside a bigger container. It's just a way to divide all of your things. Helps with portion control as well. So yeah, tonight's recipe, we're trying a couple of different cheeses. So I think you have mozzarella, Gouda, and sharp cheddar.
Yes.
On the recipe, we used Colby Jack instead of mozzarella. But you'll notice that all of those cheeses, the nutritionals don't change all that much. Really, the biggest thing that changes is maybe the amount of fat. But it is a pretty calorie-dense lunch, which is fine because you need lots of fuel in the middle of your day. But if that's something you're worried about, or as far as like the fat content goes, you could do like cottage cheese instead. Or like the mozzarella, like a part skim mozzarella is always lower in calorie, lower in fat as well. But what's really nice about these is they're totally customizable. You could do any form of protein. It doesn't have to be cheese. Or any, you could do cottage cheese, or you could do just chicken or steak, or however you want to do it. So really just trying to aim to get a vegetable, a fruit, a carb, and some kind of protein in there. Jared?
I will say that the Gouda that we used is a smoked Gouda. I know some people have allergies to smoked things, meats, cheeses, so just be aware of that. But yeah, to go off of what she was saying with just being customizable, it really is open to interpretation on how these are built, as long as you stay within that format of getting a little bit of all of what you need for your day involved in that box. It's usually things that are easily stored in small containers together. It's not very easy to do like a soup or a casserole or something like that. The intentions really is like if you were to go to a reception and they had a fruit, a vegetable, meat, cheese and cracker tray, basically taking a little bit of all that and putting it into a box for your lunch the next day. And then basically your interpretation of what items you want to utilize for that. Go online and Google, you've got some Gouda cheese. What type of fruits and vegetables go good with Gouda cheese? And kind of marry it that way as well. And really just, it's a great way. I can't tell you how many times I've been at work and made this for my lunch and never realized how trendy I was. You know? It was just, I mean, how many times have you grabbed little things like that for your lunch just because you don't really feel like something heavy? You just want something to snack on as you know, scroll through Facebook or something on your lunch break. But it's really nice because you do get a nice balance of a little bit of everything. But again, try to marry it with different types of cheeses and meats and fruits that kind of go together and fit together well with your palate.
All right, my name's Austin. I was here last class. And now I'm here again. Decided to stick around. But I'm here to talk about the next recipe we have for you guys. It's the hummus and hummus wrap. So the hummus recipe we have is like a basic hummus recipe. You can get pretty creative with all different types of things you want to add. I know the hummus that I like has like hot peppers in it, and I like a little bit more heat in my hummus. But does anybody know what garbanzo beans are? Does anybody know what chickpeas are? Well, it's the exact same thing. So, seems like you guys know your beans. They are very rich in protein, folate, fiber, which it's always good to have something that's rich in fiber. It's hard to find. Iron, which is another great thing to have. Phosphorus, polyunsaturated fat, and monounsaturated fat, which basically are two fats that we need. But it also has two kinds of fiber that helps with the good bacteria in our gut. So it'll help you stay regular, which is always important, and it reduces your inflammation in your stomach, so you will get less upset stomachs and diarrhea, which no one wants. Good thing about hummus is that you can eat it as a snack with a cracker or vegetables such as celery or carrots. That's what I like to do. We always recommend eating plant and animal protein, and garbanzo beans hummus is a great way to get that plant protein in your diet. Fun fact about the wrap, we have the naan bread, spelled Naan, and that is actually started in India. It's an Indian thing that happened in the 1300s. The Persians actually made it. So it goes way back in history. And if you've ever had a pizza over in the Douglas building, then you've had naan bread before, because that is what the pizza is made on. So there you go. Yeah. So the great thing about this wrap is that it can be flexible. You don't have to do hummus. You could do a different type of protein if you want to, like grilled chicken. You could also switch out the veggies. It's really up to you. But this is one of the recipes we wanted you guys to try, so you can try some hummus as well. All right.
One thing I will tell you about about this wrap is our naan bread is not very wrappable, right? So basically, it's almost like you would make like a half sandwich with it. It would be, if you decide to use the naan bread, that would probably be the better way to do it. Just make it on there, fold it in half, eat it like a taco in a way. But yeah, to try to actually wrap it into a wrap, that the naan bread would just break and fall apart. It's not designed to be very flexible and forgiving like that. But yeah, like he was saying about, you could use black beans. I love a good black bean garlic hummus. Your drier beans always make a better hummus, because then you're able to add more things to it to get it to the thickness and the consistency that you want it. If you're using a wetter bean, it's just a little bit different. You got to play with your wet ingredients and your dry ingredients a little bit differently to try to get it. But you really can use just about any bean that you'd like. And with the vegetables, I wasn't really sold on the recipes until I tried the vegetables after they had set in the red wine vinaigrette and they really turned out nice, and they paired really, really well with the hummus. So yeah, like he was saying about the vegetables, add some zucchini, some summer squash, you know, do some sliced tomatoes if that's what you have. If you have a garden, this is a great thing to make for lunch. Just go out to the garden, pick whatever you have, honestly. Put some peppers in there, some jalapenos, whatever you want to do. It really is up to you as far as your ingredients that you're going to add to the wrap itself. But yeah, any type of flatbreads you could use to make this. Obviously, a tortilla shell you could use to make it. Anytime you use a thinner bread like a tortilla shell and you have a high amount of moisture in whatever you're adding to it, you risk breaks, right? You wrap it up, you're in the middle of eating it, and then it ends up on your lap. So just be mindful of that. Be strategic. I always tell our cooks, there's a couple wraps that we do for out front in the cafeteria, and I always tell them, be strategic about how you build this wrap, because if there's moisture to be in it, try to get it in the center. So put your lettuce down, your meat down, then do your sauce or whatever you're adding to it, the rest of your vegetables, and then wrap it up. And that way you don't have as much moisture touching the wrap, and you've got a little bit of a barrier in between it so that it doesn't break through.
So our last item is going to be an almond butter and fig sandwich. So it's kind of our dessert, but it's also a different take on like a PB&J. So we're going to use almond butter instead of peanut butter, and we've mixed in some chia seeds in there. So the chia seeds are going to give a little extra protein and then a little extra fiber. And then we used honey instead of our jelly, just to kind of change things up on us. And then we decided to add figs, just to add an extra element. So something that people don't always think about when it comes to like a PB&J type sandwich is that you can add fruit to them. So whether it's like fresh fruit or dried fruit, but really any of them will go. Jared just thought that fig sounded really nice with this, so we picked the fig. It's also, I don't think it's something that most people would eat on a PB&J type sandwich. So with the sandwich, we did use whole wheat bread, so that's just going to add fiber, vitamins and minerals, so it's going to be a little bit healthier of an option for us. And then with the dried fruit, it's important to remember with the dried fruit, it's going to have a higher sugar content because we've taken the water content out, so it's just concentrated sugar. So if we are watching our blood sugar, this recipe is going to be a little bit high in carbs and a little bit high in sugar. But I mean, one bite should probably be okay, so I think everyone should try it. With almond butter and peanut butter, really the calories are going to be the same. That's kind of how all nut butters are going to be. Calories are pretty much the same. Protein is a little bit different. So the peanut butter is going to have a tiny bit more protein than the almond butter. By tiny bit, I mean, so in a serving size of peanut butter, it's 7.1 grams of protein, and in almond butter, it's 6.7. So, I mean, I have to give it to peanut butter, but it's not that much of a difference. But really, the difference is going to come in with fiber and with the heart-healthy fats. So almond butter does actually win in both of those categories. So it's going to have a little extra fiber in there, and then it has a higher concentration of those monounsaturated fats than the peanut butter does. So really, I mean, if you like peanut butter more than almond butter, it's still a really great option, but almond butter does kind of take the lead on some of those other heart-healthy nutrients in there.
I will recommend that if you decide to use almond butter in place of peanut butter, and you're going to make a sandwich like this, definitely toast your bread. It's a lot thicker, so it's going to be a lot harder to spread, and it's going to tear that poor bread up to pieces if you try to put it on a non-tossed or toasted piece of bread. It's also, you have to be very strategic whenever you're making something like this with mixing the honey, the chia seeds, and the peanut butter. Try to whisk it up. It's a bit difficult, but just take your time. Be patient. It will start mixing in. You can try to use a spatula and try to basically just put the almond butter in your bowl and basically just almost like you're pressing the almond butter down constantly, and that'll help kind of incorporate it and mix it a little bit easier. If you're like me, you want to use one utensil because I don't like washing dishes, right? So to do that, just use the whisk. It will get there. It just takes a little bit of time to get the honey mixed in with the almond butter because it is so thick. But I liked the flavor on this a lot. I really did. It was different. It wasn't something that I've ever tried before, done before. I let several of the kids that were working down there in the kitchen tonight try it, and they all said the same thing. I wouldn't expect that I would have liked this, but it actually is really good. And it wasn't overly sweet. Sometimes peanut butter even can be really, really sweet. And that was another thing that I really liked about it. As much as I joke around about loving sweets because I do love sweets, I like my candy to be sweet, but I don't like everything else in my diet to be super sweet. I'm kind of stingy like that. But it paired really, really well, even with the figs. And the figs aren't super dry, obviously, because they don't get real dry. They're very thick even though they are a dried fig.
You like it? So this could be a lunch, but I do think that it could really be breakfast or dessert. It's kind of one of those recipes that it can kind of be a stand-in for different things. So I would definitely eat it for lunch, but sometimes I don't like a whole lot of sweet for my midday meal. So I think, to me, I would actually eat it as a dessert instead. But yeah, I think it's a really great way to change up the old PB&J.
They were whole dried figs. So like I said, I just went through, cut the tops of them off, and then cut them in half. They were really nice and soft. They weren't really hard. So I thought that'll be perfect. It'll cover nicely. I did put them in the food processor and try it that way. That did not work at all. At all.
Was it too sticky?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very poor idea to begin with. I'll admit that. Bad idea. Good execution. Poor choice. And it didn't do anything at all. It really didn't. I opened it up after being in there for like 30 seconds and looked at it, and there was nothing changed. They've just moved from this side to this side, that's it.
So something else that we were kind of thinking about when we were coming up with recipes is like if it has to be kept cold versus can it be just in like a brown paper bag. And so we kind of wanted to come up with recipes that some for the brown paper bag and some for refrigeration. So really this peanut butter or the almond butter and fig sandwich is the only one that would probably be okay room temperature. So just kind of keeping that in mind with lunches, like if you do send your kids or your grandkids with lunch to school, just food safety wise as well, you want to make sure that you're putting a ice pack in there if it's something like the bento box or the hummus wrap, but something like this could easily just be packed with like a bag of chips or crackers in a brown paper bag and sent to school with them, or your husband sent to work or whatever. So that's something important to keep in mind when it comes to lunches in general. And then with this, we also thought about fresh fruit. We talked about that, kind of tried to brainstorm some stuff. So fresh fruit would definitely be lower in sugar. So like I said, that dried is just really concentrated. So you also might play around with some fresh fruit like peaches or something like that, strawberries even, if that's something you kind of want to watch out for as well.
I was just given a tip. If you spray your food processor, blade and all, with like pan spray, it will chop up the figs.
Oh.
So I remember doing that with the dates, and I didn't even think about that with the figs because they're about the same consistency. But we did a date ball a few months back. But yeah, so if you spray it down with pan spray, all of it inside and out. No, you're not spraying the outside, I guess. Just on the inside.
Unless you want a challenge.
And then that will keep it from sticking together so much, and it'll chop it right up for you.
Any questions before y'all leave? Okay. Well, thanks for coming. I hope you guys actually try a recipe.